Why do I hate myself? If that's the question that brought you here today, I'm not going to tell you just to love yourself more. Instead, I'm going to help you understand how your nervous system can learn a belief like this. And I'll walk you through the same process that I use with my clients to begin uncovering where that came from. Most people who say, I hate myself, believe they are describing who they really are. But here's what I've discovered after working with clients over the years. Self-hatred is almost never where the story starts. It's where the story ends up. That's because what is usually underneath it runs so much deeper. Things like shame, unresolved grief, chronic criticism, the feeling of being too much or never being enough. So the words I hate myself are the label that someone's given to a much more complex emotional history. And that matters because when we try to treat self-hatred like it's a problem, what we do is we try to fix it with affirmations, with motivation, or worse yet, willpower. But when we recognize it as a conclusion, one that the mind has reached after experiences that were never fully processed, now we have something that we can actually work with. Children don't come into this world hating themselves. No baby has ever looked around and thought, what's wrong with me? No, that's learned. And it gets learned through emotional experiences that shape how a child sees themselves in the world. It makes sense that a child can't evaluate an adult's behavior and come to the conclusion that that person is emotionally struggling. So instead, they draw a different conclusion. And that usually shows up as something's wrong with me. I'm not lovable. I'm too much. Everything is my fault. I have to earn love just to be safe. And these aren't conclusions that they consciously choose. These are emotional conclusions that form automatically based on what their nervous system is experiencing at that moment. And once a conclusion feels true, the mind stops questioning it and starts looking for evidence to support it. And sometimes the people who shaped those early beliefs, they were just doing the best that they could with what they knew in that moment. Sometimes they too were carrying their own emotional wounds that they never have resolved themselves. And without realizing it, those wounds influenced the messages a child received about their worth, their value, and their identity. And these aren't just old memories. These conclusions are not just thoughts. They become stored as emotional patterns in the nervous system. So the body responds as if the old meaning is happening now. And here's where this gets stuck. Once the brain forms a belief like I'm not enough, it doesn't just store it. It begins looking for that evidence that that belief is true. So every criticism, every mistake, every rejection, even a sideways glance from someone who's probably just having a bad day, the nervous system filters it through that old conclusion and says, see, I told you. And it's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to stay consistent with what it already believes. And that's why two people can go through nearly identical experiences and walk away with completely different beliefs about themselves. One person might conclude, well, that was painful, but it wasn't about me. And the other concludes, I'm not good enough. The difference isn't self-worth, it's interpretation. And interpretation is learned. And this is why positive thinking by itself rarely changes deeply held beliefs about self-worth. You can tell yourself that you're good enough 1,000 times. But if your nervous system is still running this old program that says otherwise, it's going to win every single time. The body doesn't store events as facts, it stores them as emotional meaning. It was something that was repeated internally so many times that it started to feel like your identity. I had a client who carried something her mother said to her for decades. And as a little girl, she heard the same sentence over and over, and it sounded like this: "You are a worthless piece of shit." And that one sentence became the filter she saw herself through for years, for decades. I get goosebumps as I think about it. That one sentence. Her self-worth, her relationships, all of her decisions, all shaped by the meaning that she attached to that one sentence as a child. She simply learned a belief about herself that was never true and had never been questioned. And years later, she was still living from that meaning, still filtering her self-worth through that, still asking in different ways, why do I hate myself? And when we traced it back, it was never about who she was. It was about what she learned to believe about herself when she was the most vulnerable. So what if the voice you've been calling me isn't really your voice at all? What if it's an old emotional recording that's been playing for so long, you've mistaken it for your identity? Because that's really what this work is all about. Not changing who you are, but helping you discover who you were before those conclusions became your identity. We don't always need more understanding. Sometimes we just need a different way of seeing things. So the words, "I hate myself," is the label someone's given to a much more complex emotional history. And what they're usually really asking is, why do I feel worthless every time I try to move forward in my life? So I'm going to do with you today what I would do at the beginning of any session with any client. I'm going to ask you 5 questions to help surface the old recording. So stay with me through all 5, because we're going to use exactly what comes up to fuel the tapping sequence here shortly. So I don't want you to overthink this. I just want you to go with the first thing that comes to your mind. And if your mind goes blank, don't wait for memory. Just let your mind fill in the blank. Make something up if you have to, because whatever your mind creates in that space, it's coming from somewhere. Your subconscious already holds the pattern, even when your conscious mind can't quite reach it. And after each question, I'm going to remain silent for just a few seconds. And I want you to use that silence. And then pause the video if you need more time. This is your space. But trust your subconscious. Write the first thing that pops in there. So question 1, how do you know you hate yourself? Question 2, when was the most recent time you felt this way? Question 3, when have you felt like this before? What or who triggers this feeling in you? Question 5, imagine you have an inner critic. What is that inner critic saying? And whose voice is it? Now, before we move on, I want to ask you one more thing. Are you experiencing any physical sensations or pain in your body right now? Any tension, any tightness, any pressure, any heaviness, aching, whatever it is? Where's it located? Because unprocessed emotional experiences don't just disappear. They often show up in the body as pain, fatigue, discomfort that the mind learned to ignore. The body will carry what is never fully processed. Just notice it without judgment. So again, if you came here asking, why do I hate myself? Maybe the better question isn't why, but how did my mind learn that? Because you weren't born with this belief. It was built along the way, layer by layer, experience by experience, and meaning by meaning. And anything that has been learned can be unlearned. And that's where your self-healing begins, not by fighting or ignoring your thoughts, but by understanding how those thoughts were formed in the first place. And right now, I'm going to guide you through a faster EFT tapping process because healing self hatred isn't about replacing the voice with affirmations. It's about neutralizing the charge underneath it so that your nervous system can begin releasing some of what these old conclusions have been holding in place. So take a deep breath and let's begin. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to step into that feeling or that knowing that you hate yourself. I want you to see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. Step into that feeling. And then I want you to rate it from 1 to 10, with 10 meaning it's really strong. It's a really high emotion that you know you hate yourself. So if you're new to this process, there's no worries. It's a very forgiving process. Just watch me do as I do. And we are going to be tapping in these places. We're going to be tapping between the eye, side of the eye, like right at the end of the eyebrow, under the eye, collarbone. Right here, there's a U. You're just going to tap on each side. Okay, you can use both hands if you want to. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter which side. Doesn't matter which hand or both hands. You can even cross your hands if you want to. Make it challenging. But when you tap, what I want you to do is I want you to shift the focus off your problem, which today is hating yourself. And I want you to focus on the feeling of your fingers on your skin. And like I always say, my fingers are always cooler than my face. So just listen to me talk, repeat after me. And as I'm talking, if the words don't resonate or fit with your situation, just substitute your own. Maybe even the ones that you wrote from the questions that I just asked you, those might fit in here as well. Okay, let's just start tapping between the eyes. Repeat after me. I release and let go of all my sadnesses. I let go of all my fears, all my anxiousness, any judgments, any abandonments, any betrayals, any angers, any resentments, guilt, feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, rejections, feelings of no control, and all the ways that I know that I hate myself. I want you to grab your wrist. I want you to take a deep breath in, blow it out, and say peace. Now, for the next 15 seconds, what I want you to do is I want you to count backwards from 100 by nines. I'm going to do the counting. You just start at 100, go backwards by nines, like 100, 91. Keep going backwards. I'll tell you when to stop. Okay, come back to me. Now, go back. Just notice how it's changed. That feeling that you hate yourself. Just notice if it's changed. Notice what's still left. And then just reassess 1 to 10. How strong is it? It may not have changed at all, and that's okay. This was just the first round. And this is a very generic round. Round 2. Let's start tapping. Ready? This feeling that I hate myself. I've been believing for so long that something must be wrong with me. This heavy feeling that I've been carrying for so long. These painful conclusions about who I am. And I have mistaken these old beliefs for the truth. Every time something goes wrong, it feels like proof. I've been living with this old emotional recording for way too long. And even though this feels so real, I'm open to the possibility that it can change. Grab your wrist, deep breath in, blow it out, peace. Now, for the next 15 seconds, I want you to focus on at least 8 things that you can hear. Ready? Go. Okay, come back to me. Just notice how it's changed and notice what's still left and reassess the intensity of this feeling that you hate yourself from 1 to 10. Okay, round 3. Maybe this feeling didn't begin with me. Maybe, just maybe I learned these beliefs when I was too young to know any different. Children just naturally believe the adults around them. And maybe I believe those words because I was a child, not because they were true. I've been carrying conclusions that were formed a long time ago. And what if I've just been replaying an old emotional recording? And if these beliefs were learned, maybe they can be unlearned. So I'm becoming curious instead of convinced. Grab your wrist, deep breath in, blow it out, peace. So now for the next 15 seconds, what I want you to do is I want you to look around you and I want you to count all the circles that you see. Ready? Go. All right, come back to me. Go back. Notice what's changed. Notice what's still left. Reassess your intensity level from 1 to 10. Has it started to come down a little bit? And if not, it could even be higher. That happens because your brain will start thinking about things that might bring forth memories, or you've heard somebody say something in your mind. And if things start to surface, that's not a bad thing. It just means that your subconscious is ready to start neutralizing that. Let's start healing that part of your past. Now, let's go on to the next round. You ready? What if the voice that I've been calling me really isn't my voice? What if I have mistaken an old emotional recording for my identity? Maybe these old conclusions aren't even true. My nervous system has been trying to protect me in the only way that it knew how. And I can appreciate how hard it's been working to protect me. And today, I choose to see these old beliefs from a different perspective. I don't have to keep proving an old story. I'm allowing my mind and body to learn something new. Grab your wrist, take a deep breath in, blow it out, peace. All right, for this next 15 seconds, what I want you to do is I want you to spell your name, your full name, forwards and backwards. Ready? Go. All right, come back to me. Check in again. Notice what's changed. Notice what's still left. Reassess your intensity level of how you know you hate yourself. How strong is it now? 1 to 10. And we're going to go to the last round now. You ready? I am beginning to see myself through new eyes. My past may have shaped me, but it doesn't have to define me. And I can release these conclusions one layer at a time. My nervous system is learning that I'm safe now. I am creating space for peace, for compassion, and for self-acceptance. And every time that I practice this, I'm strengthening a new way of thinking and feeling and believing. And my self journey begins with one new perception at a time. I may not believe it completely yet, but for the first time in a long, long time, I finally have some hope. Grab your wrist, deep breath in, blow it out, peace. I want you to feel the shift inside of you, knowing that you are no longer handing over your power to somebody else, somebody from your past, somebody that may not even be around anymore. You're learning, you're growing, and healing with every breath that you take. So just check in with yourself. How do you feel? Even if it's just a small shift, that's progress. Take a final intensity assessment, 1 to 10. If you want to drop it in the comments below, if you have any questions, please just add it to the comments. Check in with your physical pain. Has that changed? Has it moved? Has it gotten worse? Has it changed aspects? Like sometimes people will have sharp pains, but then it'll change to a dull ache, something like that. Everybody's different. And did you yawn? Because if you yawned, that's a good sign. It just means that your brain is reorganizing and it's balancing, which is good. You might even feel tired, which is normal as your brain is trying to rebalance. And I want to take a moment to address anyone who didn't feel any shifts, or maybe in the remote possibility that maybe you even feel worse. If that happens, that's okay. I mean, it's not okay to feel worse, but it's not unusual, and there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the process. Sometimes there's just so many memories that support the feeling of self-hatred that it is vital that those memories be neutralized before something starts to shift. And that takes working with somebody who knows how to get those shifts. I hope this helped a little. And I do offer a free 30 to 60-minute consultation. You might feel like you need to discuss your results, or you might have questions, or you just want to explore this a little bit further. I will put the link to that in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.